the news for her day after day after day, you know, it's not devastating on any one day, but it seems like we're getting to the death by 1,000 cuts feel.
Now, here's the very, very troubling news. The FBI knew that servers were wiped clean, that BlackBerries were smashed and destroyed, and that a laptop was lost in the U.S. mail. The FBI ought to have pursued Mrs. Clinton and the people around her for obstruction of justice, and it did not do so. That is exceptionally distressing. The case against her for failure to secure state secrets is overwhelming. Now the case against somebody, we don't know who, for obstruction of justice is overwhelming, and Megyn, the FBI has done nothing. Someone, somewhere, it must be the White House, has restrained the FBI from doing its job.
Hostile foreign actors gained access to the personal email accounts of individuals with whom Clinton was in regular contact, and in doing so obtained emails sent to or received by Clinton on her personal account. Hillary Clinton's staff deleted and digitally bleached, which is acid cleaned, her emails after receiving a congressional subpoena. She couldn't even remember whether she was trained or handling classified information. Didn't remember anything about it. So if she really didn't remember, that's a problem. And if she did remember, that's a problem.
All right, now let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's look at Hillary's unfolding, ever-growing stories, fabrication, and we'll follow that up with Trey Gowdy grilling the FBI director about all the times she lied to you, the American people.
We continue our discussion here with the founder, the editor-in-chief of Wikileaks, and that's Julian Assange is with us. You told me that you have batches, what you called batches and batches of information that you're continuing to vet, specifically related to Hillary Clinton, that you have said numerous times you believe will have a profound or could have a profound impact on this election. What else can you tell us about that?
I said significant. Profound is possible. It depends on how, the stuff is taken up. But we saw a very good take-up last time with the DNC leak, so I'm hopeful. I can't scoop ourselves before we publish, but we have tens of thousands, possibly as many as 100,000 pages of documents of different types related to the operations that Hillary Clinton is associated with. They're from several, I don't want to speak about sourcing, but let me put it this way, that in response to DNC publications, a lot of people have been inspired by the impact, and so step forward with additional material.
So you are currently putting all of this together. Where in the process are you? Because I know that it's important to you to maintain your perfect track record in terms of not getting information wrong. In terms of a timeline, we do have an important election in just 61 days. Where are you in terms of that process?
We're quite confident now on the initial batches in terms of vetting them, that they are accurate, they are what they say they are, that our sources are not lying to us about what they say they are. But it's quite a complex and business to sort things, to index them, to make sure they're presentable, to try and see what the top initial angles are that come out. And we're a small shop. We're working around the clock. We understand very much the time pressures that people have and how significant it is to try and get that out. We worked like hell to get the DNC publication out before the DNC. We did get it out the day before the DNC. I am very confident we're going to get this material out long before the day before the election.
They keep finding more of these emails. She was supposed to have turned them all over. They keep finding out that there were more devices than she claimed that she had. All these things, while none of them by themselves is a death blow, is the death by 1,000 cuts, and the cuts keep coming.
Classified material has a header which says top secret, secret, confidential, nothing. And I will repeat this, and this is verified in the report by the Department of Justice. None of the emails sent or received by me had such a header.
Wow. By the way, you don't need classification. Does not always come with a header, and Hillary knows that. All right.
The laws and regulations in effect when I was Secretary of State allowed me to use my email for work. That is undisputed. It clearly wasn't the best choice. And I take responsibility for that decision. I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two. I believe I have met all of my responsibilities, and the server will remain private. In order to be as cooperative as possible, we have turned over the server. They can do whatever they want to with the server to figure out what's there or what's not there.
Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails, either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices during the 4 years of her term as Secretary of State.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands, that were not returned.
Secretary Clinton said her lawyers read every one of the emails and were overly inclusive. Did her lawyers read the email content individually?
No.
Here was reaction. Fox News contributors Ebony Williams and the host of Justice Judge Jeanine Pirro. Okay, well, first of all, she didn't wipe it clean with a cloth. She used bleach bit. If that doesn't prove criminal intent, I don't know. By the way, it wasn't one device. We now find out it's 13 to 14 devices.
Yes.
Okay. And they smashed them with a hammer. Mm-hmm. How did James Comey not come up with an indictment here?
You know, as you know, Jim is a friend of mine, or was when I was the DA. I have never been more disgusted with someone who was a former prosecutor and the way he has covered this up and gone to such great lengths to protect a woman, to protect anyone.
And the document dump on the Friday before Labor Day?
For Jim to say that, you know what, we wanted to get it out as soon as possible, Jim, that is hogwash, and you know it. I've lost all respect for the man. Right. I have. He may be the head of the FBI, but shame on him for what he has done.
But he did say there's more to come. And I think we have to pay attention to that. That's very important. I absolutely expect as he gets it ready, we're going to get more and more. And this isn't the end of that.
You know what, though? If you use wait a minute. I delete emails, you delete emails, we've all deleted something.
Sure.
Okay, I don't use bleach bit. Doesn't that show criminal intent?
Yeah, you know what's the worst, though, Sean?
Trey Gowdy said God can't find them after bleach bit. So what do you do when somebody lies with regularity like this? Lied about Benghazi, lies all with basically, what do you do when 40% of the country, you can have her on video popping somebody in the head, with a gun and at point-blank range, and they'll still vote for her.
Hillary Clinton has lied so often and so much that the American public is immune to it. I mean, they don't think it matters anymore. But what they don't seem to understand is that we cannot have a leader who lies to us continuously for her own benefit, for money and for power.
Judge, I don't know that I agree, Judge, that people don't care. I think people know she's a liar. People say across the political spectrum, because many people say they're choosing between someone they don't like and someone they don't trust.
House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz sent a letter to the district attorney for Washington, D.C. today, calling for a new probe in the conduct of both Mrs. Clinton and her staffers. Chaffetz says that after reviewing documents released on Friday by FBI Director James Comey, he believes there may be evidence of, quote, obstruction of justice and destruction of evidence by Secretary Clinton and her employees and contractors.
Do you have any concerns that emails were deleted after they were already supposed to be preserved, and did you ask for them to be deleted?
No, of course not. I have no concern on either count. The FBI resolved all of this. Their report answered all the questions. The findings included debunking his latest conspiracy theories.
You look at the evidence. right before this Platte River Networks. They were the ones who deleted her email archives pursuant to her order, is how it looks. This is the guy who had the oh blank moment.
Right.
He had been told to do it before.
Right.
He claims, oh, I forgot, and then I saw the subpoena, and suddenly I remembered I was supposed to delete everything, everything of interest.
They're going to blame me. I better take a sledgehammer to a couple of BlackBerries.
Right. So, but here's what happened before he did the deleting after the subpoena. He had a conference call with Secretary Clinton's attorneys just days before the deletions, created a work ticket on or about the day of the deletion, used BleachBit, a software program designed to prevent recovery of evidence, manual deletion of backups, and on it goes. And the question is, was this intentional, and what were they hiding, if anything?
How could it not have been intentional with the regular, consistent, systematic destruction of evidence? And I'm sorry to tell you, her lawyers may have been involved in this, which adds another entirely different level of culpability.
What if they say none of this stuff was responsive, and therefore we didn't need to keep it? It was all yoga, blah, blah, blah. You know, like that was, who cares? We could delete that stuff.
She swore under oath to a federal judge, and she swore under oath to 2 congressional committees. She returned all of her work-related emails. The FBI found 17,800 work-related emails that she failed to return. Not all of them were readable because some of them had been destroyed. You tell me that's not a prima facie case of obstruction of justice, and the FBI has done nothing about it.
You believe they violated their own policy?
Yes.
How?
Her lawyers told the DOJ she will not show up for an interview if you record it. It is policy of the DOJ to record every interview. There is no record of what she said other than the summaries written by the FBI agents who were in the room and who listened to her. In this digital age, there is no recording. There's a verbatim recording of every single other one of the witnesses interrogated in this case, except for Mrs. Clinton.
Wow. With House Speaker Paul Ryan now suggesting the FBI appears to be acting as an arm of Mrs. Clinton's presidential campaign.
I can't believe that they would do what is such a patently political move. It makes them look like political operators versus law enforcement officers.
To release this on a Friday as if he's an arm of the Clinton campaign, I'm just stunned, because there's a lot of information in here that's of great public interest. And if you really cared about transparency, you would say to yourself, is the best time to release this to get a full public hearing on Friday before Labor Day?
Jim, what do you think the answer to that is? Why do you think the FBI didn't do all those things?
Because the FBI director is playing politics. I mean, you know, the FBI director doesn't do things like that. The FBI director does not take the most famous, the best law enforcement agency in the world and politicize it by letting thing out, you know, Labor Day weekend. I mean, I just think that's the worst thing he could do. Should be absolutely ashamed of himself. And this interview, you know, why wasn't it recorded? Why wasn't there a transcript? Why wasn't she under oath? Who was in the room? Was Justice in the room? Who was in charge of the interview?
Have you gotten any reaction from the FBI agents that you still talk to, Jim, about this?
Meg and I've had contact with 50 different people, both inside and outside, retired agents that are basically disgusted. And, you know, it's sort of the last straw. I'm just, and by the way, was she asked to be polygraphed? I mean, these are standard things that we do in these investigations. You know, and then the Comey press conference. He gives this press conference, and then he's asked the question, he took a few questions later, and he's asked, what about the interview? And he says, well, I haven't visited the interview yet. I haven't read the interview yet. What? Was this a preconceived interview? I mean, obviously it was. It didn't have any impact. I mean, it's just nuts. It doesn't
add up.
Imagine if you're the parent of one of the, 5,000 people that lost their lives. Take a look.
I think that the decision to go to war in Iraq was a mistake. And I have said that my voting to give President Bush that authority was, from my perspective, my mistake.
Clinton also promised voters that she'd never put U.S. troops on the ground in Iraq and Syria, flat out ignoring or simply not knowing the fact that thousands are actually already there. Watch this.
We are not putting ground troops into Iraq ever again. and we're not putting ground troops into Syria. We're going to defeat ISIS without committing American ground troops.
I just think the thing that really came out of this appearance last night for me, Sean, was that she's just given up, I think, defending her record. She can't defend what has happened in the economy under Obama. She can't defend her foreign policy record. She's not really defending Benghazi. She's not defending anything that's happened in the Middle East.
Not one person died in Benghazi or Libya.
Yeah, she cannot defend the record. She can't really argue that things are going to get all that much better. She kept making these veiled references to the VA and, well, we're going to have better technology. Then are you keeping your ideas a secret from Obama? You have all these great ideas and he's just not implementing them? I just think her argument for a better future is just not there. And all it is Trump's crazy, Trump's crazy, Trump's crazy. It's all she has to
The economic statistics are...
Oh, they're devastating.
Devastating.
No.
And I give them out every night. I won't bore the audience here with it now, but lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, lowest home ownership rate.
1 in 6 men at work
18 to 34 or
age.
incarcerated. 1 in 5 American families don't have one member of the family working.
Whose legacy is that? Are we still blaming George W. Bush for that? Who are we blaming for that? This is the legacy of Obama and Clinton on foreign policy and the domestic economy. And Trump just has to go to the electorate and say, look, you might not like my unvarnished style. You might think I'm a little brash. I get that. I'm a New Yorker. But you can't think that this is going to get any better under Hillary Clinton.
She says she's going to continue it.
All right. Hillary Clinton is responding days after the FBI released documents summarizing its interview with her about her private email server. Here it is.
I went into the State Department understanding classification. I'd been on the Senate Armed Services Committee for years before I was Secretary of State. I take classification seriously. The fact I couldn't remember certain meetings, whether or not they had occurred, doesn't in any way affect the commitment that I had and still have to the treatment of classified material.
So let's talk about those documents. FBI documents released just before the holiday weekend revealing agents reported 39 times that she was unable to recall certain things. She also appeared to blame her aides for sending her classified emails. And she claimed not to know what the C or confidential marking on some of the messages meant. Okay, so I'm confused. She said none of the messages were marked, yet there was a marking on some of them, but she wasn't sure what the message was. How in the world did she take that form that she was given, read through it and sign it, put her name on it and say, I fully understand my responsibility to handle classified documents, and not get indicted?
The form of which you speak followed a 2.5-hour tutorial given to her on day one as Secretary of State by 2 FBI agents, in which they went through line by line the obligation of the Secretary of State to recognize state secrets, confidential, secret, or top secret. Those are the 3 marking when she sees them, whether they're stamped with that marking or not. At the end of that tutorial, she signs this very, very detailed pledge, promising and swearing that she understands her obligation is to recognize these secrets. That obligation was violated hundreds of times. The statement we just showed that she said on the plane is 180 degrees from what the FBI says she told her.
So the big overarching question is, and I said, how did she not get indicted? Is any of this a legal problem for her? Is it just bad judgment?
This is a legal problem for her if Donald Trump becomes president and decides he wants to seek, his attorney general decides he wants to seek an indictment. Is there enough evidence to indict? Yes. Is there enough evidence to convict? Yes. The FBI and the Justice Department made a policy decision. This is not the appropriate time to pursue this person criminally in the middle of a political campaign. I want to get this in. The FBI played a trick on her. They took an innocuous document, stamped it secret. She didn't see them stamp it, handed it to her and said, do you remember this? She said, no, I don't remember it. But looking at it, there's nothing secret in there. What's the trick? It showed her ability to read the page and make a determination as to whether or not it is secret, rather than just rely on the stamp.
Oh, wow.
Didn't go anywhere. It's more evidence of guilt. It's more evidence of a failure to take care of state secrets. Didn't go anywhere.
Oh, they even went after my foundation last week. Now, that was really funny to me. Somebody asked me what I thought about it. I said, well, here's what I did. I was sort of Robin Hood, except I didn't rob anybody. I just asked people with money to give it to people who didn't have money.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know about that. I mean, the foundation holds on to 90% of what it gets.
It's very striking that he should have used that phrase Robin Hood.
And then had to clean it up.
He obviously didn't steal from anybody, unless you consider taking funds and claiming they're tax exempt and telling the donors they can deduct that from their income taxes when in fact it was not tax exempt because the Clinton Foundation was not registered as a charity with the IRS or with any of the 50 states in which it operates or any of the foreign governments in which countries in which it operates.
So they say that's just a mistake, that they've addressed that before and now they'll go back and clean up their tax records and they're not guilty of anything. Is she guilty of pay for play? What does it take to prove that? And when you look at the different things that she's done, the foreign governments she's taken money from, like Abu Dhabi, and then decided things in favor of them at the State Department later, what would you need to prove that?
I think the fallout from pay to play, if it existed, if there was pay to play, will be political. I don't think it's legal. The federal government does not prosecute for that. On its face, demanding that you give money to some third party that your husband controls before you exercise your authority as Secretary of State is wrong and is a form of bribery. But the government doesn't look at it that way.
Wasn't it a concession when she said, Judge, on the record, that if elected president, she would no longer accept foreign donations to the foundation because of that conflict of interest? But at the same time, she was accepting those still when she was Secretary of State. Why would it be inappropriate as president?
The conflicts are extraordinary. Huma Abedin, her number 2 aide, received 2 income streams, one from the State Department, one from the Clinton Foundation.
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously. She worked for both at the same time. She was orchestrating foreign donations to the Clinton Foundation while she was orchestrating the donors to meet her boss. Don't, but I can predict to you that we will. There are a number of people who have been analyzing the Clinton Foundation from an economic point of view and from a legal point of view, and those reports are about to come out within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think the American people